Hello there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And for today, we are going to learn few more CSS properties. And please don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, put the thumbs up and also hit the bell button so you will be notified when my videos will come up. Alright, so enough intro, let's begin. Okay, so the first property which we are going to learn today will be the display. So the display property specifies the display behavior, the type of rendering box of an element. In HTML, the default display property value is taken from the HTML specifications or from browser user default style sheet. The default value in XML is inline, including SVG elements. Display property takes a lot of values, but in this lesson we are going to speak only about 4 of them. So the first one is inline. Displays an element as an inline element, like span. Any height and width properties will have no effect. Block displays an element as a block element, like P. It starts on a new line and takes up the whole width. Inline block displays an element as an inline level block container. The element itself is formatted as inline element, but you can apply height and width values. And the fourth one is non-property. The element is completely removed. So let's go ahead and check these 4 properties. So the first one will be, let's create a div which has a class name of display Okay, this is not working for the Visual Studio. Alright, let's create a simple div. And let's give it class names. Square. And also let's give it a display, for example, inline block. Or let's write it like this, inline block. Alright, let's go ahead and add these classes in our CSS style sheet. Okay. So the square, let's make it the width 100, no, 12 pixels, and the height also 200 pixels. Let's give it a background color so we can see the difference. Alright, so let's give it a background color of red or brown. Alright, so let's save this. Let's go ahead. Oh, we forget to add the inline block. So let's add this styling also. So here is the property and here is the value. As you can see, there are a lot of properties, but today's lesson is too short to talk about all of them, so we'll speak only about the main ones. So let's make it inline block and let's see how it will behave. Okay, as you can see, my element here, it is a square div with 200 pixels of width and 200 pixels of height. Let's remove this class and see what will happen. let's remove this. Right. As you can see, it will take the whole width here. The div has the whole width here. But whenever we are adding the display in line, we can add another element next to it. Here, as you can see, it's not taking the whole width. Alright, so let's go ahead and try the display none. This will hide our element. So as you can see, we have it here, but it's not appearing. Alright, so let's go ahead and learn a few more properties. So the next one is overflow. The overflow property specifies that what should happen if content overflows an element's box. This property specifies when to clip content or to add a scroll bar when an element contains content is too big to fit in a specific area. So it takes 4 values, and the first one of them is overflow visible. So overflow visible is not clipped, it renders outside the elements box. This is default. So by default, or all elements do have this overflow visible. So the second parameter is the value. Second value is the overflow hidden. The overflow is clipped and rest of the content will be invisible. The third parameter is the overflow scroll. The overflow is clipped, but the scroll bar is added to see the rest of the content. And the fourth one is auto. If overflow is clipped, a scroll bar should be added to see the rest of the content. So if there is no much content in it, it will not show the scroll bar. And also there is a property of overflow. X property specifies whether to clip the content, add a scroll bar, or display overflow content of a block level element when the overflow at the left and right edges. Use the overflow property to determine clipping at the top and the bottom edges. And also we have the overflow Y or overflow Y in Greek. Overflow Y property specifies whether the clip the content at a scroll bar or display overflow content of a block level element when the overflows at the top and the bottom edges. Use the overflow X property to determine clipping at the left and the right edges. Okay, so let's learn a few more properties before we will demonstrate them. Okay, so the next one here is the max height property that defines the maximum height of the element. If the content is larger than the maximum height, it will overflow. How the container will handle the overflowing content is defined by the overflow property. If the content is smaller than the maximum height, the max height property has no effect. This prevents the value of height property from becoming larger than max height. The value of the max height property overrides the height property. And also we have here the max width property, which defines the maximum width of an element. If the content is larger than the maximum width, it will automatically change the height of the element. If the content is smaller than the maximum width, the max width property has no effect. This prevents the value of the width property from becoming larger than max width. The value of the max width property overrides the width property. And also, in opposite of this, we have also the mean height and mean width. The mean height property defines the minimum height of the element, and if the content is smaller than the minimum height will be applied. If the content is larger than minimum height, the minimum height property has no effect. This prevents a value of the height property from becoming smaller than mean height. And also we have the mean width, which defines the minimum width of the element if it contains a smaller than the minimum width. If the content is smaller than the minimum width, the minimum width will be applied. If the content is larger than the minimum width property has no effect. This prevents the value of the width property from becoming smaller than the mean width. Alright, so let's go ahead and demonstrate this actual work and see how it works. So let's start by giving this div, for example, a max width. Let's give it a max width of 200. Max width 200. Or even we can go with this option, MW, and also MH 200 pixels. Alright, so let's go ahead and add this. Let's go ahead and add this here. Pixels, and also MH, I forget, MH dash 200 pixels will be max height 200 pixels. Alright, so let's remove this. Let's add some content, and we will add it with we'll add here a lorem ipsum. Let's find some dummy text. Alright, so let's put this inside our div, and let's give this a p tag, and add this inside of our p tag. Alright, so now our maximum width is 200 pixels. Let's put let's also use the overflow. Let's see what is the difference. Overflow hidden. And also let's add this to our div. So let's go ahead, refresh and see what we got here. It seems that doesn't work. Okay, we have applied MWMH. What is not working here? Oh, MH, not MT. Alright, so let's refresh, and as you can see, the rest of the text is cut off. And when we will add, let's add scroll and see what will happen. And as you can see now, it gave us a scroll bar with which we can see the rest of the text. So let's cut the text off and see what will happen. Let's cut this off. As you can see here, the text is short. It's not even the minimum height of the text, but we still have the scroll bar here. So let's change this to the auto. Okay, let's save this. Go ahead. As you can see, the scroll bar disappeared from here. Alright. And it will appear when we will add some text there that is longer than 200 pixels. Alright, so let's save this, and you can see that here it appears. But what if we don't want, for example, when we write a scroll, it will add a scroll bar from both sides, both from vertically and from horizontally. So if we want to get rid of this, we need to add overflow the Y, and let's refresh, and you can see that only the vertical scroll bar is left. And when we add overflow X, only okay, because I have a horizontal also vertical, the same, it will leave this automatically. Alright, so we spoke about visible, overflow auto, hidden. Alright, so let's go ahead. And we also spoke about the mean height and mean width. So let's change this to see what will be changed. Let's change this to mean instead of max. Mean width. Mean height. Alright, so let's remove this text, a part of this text from here, so it will be clear for you what is the difference between them. So as you can see, even if the text is shorter, the div will have its height and width as it is defined. But if the text, let's bring the text back, let's save this. Let's be sure that I have added everything correctly. Okay. Oh, alright. So if the text is back here, it will take the whole width or whole height of the div element. So let's leave this a max so you can also see the difference for the height. As you can see, it will grow as much as it has content in it. Okay, so it was about max height and max width, so let's go ahead. Okay, so the next we will talk about positions. So the position property specifies the type of the positioning method used for an element: static, relative, absolute, fixed, or sticky. So let's speak about the static. This value is by default and it works by default. So element render in order as they appear in a document flow. The next one is position relative. The element is positioned relative to its normal position. So left 2 pixels, add 2 pixels to the element left position. The next one is the absolute position. The element is positioned relative to its first position. And also we have a fixed position, which is the element is positioned relatively to the browser's window. And the fifth one is sticky. The element is positioned based on the user's scroll position. A sticky element toggles between the relative and fixed depending on the scroll position. It is positioned relatively until a given offset position is met in the viewport. Then it sticks in the place, like position fixed. Note, and also this is not supported in Windows Browser Edge 15 or for earlier versions, and also on Safari version 6.1. Alright, so let's go ahead and demonstrate this, how it works. Let's add another div here. A div which has another div in it. And both of them have the background color. Let's change this to the brown, so we'll know that this is background color. Okay, so let's give this width 300. No, let's give this 600 pixels and height also 600 pixels. And for this one, let's give to this a width of 100 pixels and also a height of 100 pixels. Alright, so let's go ahead and add these classes here. Also the second one which I got here, the width is 100 pixels. And the height is also 100 pixels. Also, let's make them inline block. So they will act as inline block elements. Alright, let's refresh and see what we got here. Let's remove this. Let's give to this another color so we will see the difference. I forget. Green. Okay, so let's see what we got here. As you can see, we have the first element inside of our parent div. So let's give to this element a class of position relative. And let's add here, for example, after we add this positioning here, we can use the top option, the bottom, and also left and right. The only problem here is that you can't use top and bottom at the same time, and also you can't use left and right at the same time. So if you want, you need only to use one of these and also one of these. So let's for now use the top and the left and see how it will behave. Let's add 10 pixels and 12 pixels, 20 pixels for this one. Let's refresh. Oh, I forget to add this to our child element relative. As you can see, it moved from the top with 10 pixels and from the left with 20 pixels. Alright, so let's add let's see another another value of the position relative. Let's remove this and add a position absolute. Okay, so let's give instead of position relative a position absolute and see what we will have here. But for this time, let's give a left, no, right, for example, 10 pixels, and also, for example, top of 12 pixels. Alright, so let's go ahead and refresh. As you can see, it got out of our browser. It got out of its parent. Why? Because if you want this absolute to work with his parent, with its parent, you need to add a relative class to it, to the parent element. Otherwise, it will take its positioning from the element that has the relative position and is the parent of this element. If there is no parent, it will take the body as its parent element. Alright, so let's go ahead and see. As you can see, now it counts the top and the also right from its parent element. Okay, let's check also the fix it, and let's set it, for example, bottom 13 pixels, 30 pixels, and right, for example, also let's add the same. Oh, I forget to add this to our element. Forget to save. As you can see, it came here, and it doesn't matter if the parent has the relative class or it doesn't. It is always counting from the browser's width, and it is in your experience with the browsers, you have seen the top bottom that moves you to the top. It is positioned with the position fixed. Alright, so let's move on and check, learn another property too. So the next property is the z-index property. It specifies the stack order of an element. An element with the greater stack order is always in front of the element with the lower stack order. Z-index only works on a positioned elements, position absolute, position relative, and position fixed or position sticky. And fixed items, elements that are direct child of display flex elements. If two position elements overlap without a z-index specification, the element position last in the HTML code will be shown on top. Alright, so let's go ahead and check the z-index. Let's give to our relative element some position top, for example, top 100 pixels, and also left also 100 pixels, and let's make this position absolute. Let's bring it to the center, right 15%, and let's move it up, so it will be minus 20 pixels, and let's give this a z-index. Alright, so let's write this. It is getting a numbered value. It is not getting a measurement like pixels, percentage, or anything else. It is getting only numbers. So let's give this a z-index of 2. Alright, so let's go ahead, refresh, and see what we will get here. As you can see, it is on the parent element and it moved up with just a second. With this way, it is similar to the Facebook profile when there is a background there and also a profile picture which appears on a center. Alright, so this is about z-index. Okay, so let's move on and learn also about the hover selector, which is used to select element when your mouse over them. The hover selector can be used on all elements, not only on links. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. So let's, for example, add some class to this. Change color. Oh, we already have a color here. Let's take these and add on this a hover, for example. Let's add another color. We are writing hover like this, hover. Let's change the color to, for example, background color yellow, green yellow. Alright, so let's see what will happen. Let's refresh this. Go ahead. As you can see, it is changing the color, but you'll see that there is no time. It is changing whenever you enter there. So for this one, so this is where our next property comes, and the property name says it all. The property name is the transition property. Is a short property for transition property, transition duration, transition timing function, transition delay. And we should always specify the two values of this transition. And these values are the transition duration property and also the transition property. Like if we want to change the background color of let's change also the width instead of background color. We'll now do it. Okay, so let's move one by one and see what are they doing. So the transition property specifies the name of the CSS property the transition effect is for. For example, it can be a width, height, background color, text color, or something else. The transition effect could typically occur when a user hovers over the element. Always specify the transition duration property, otherwise the duration is 0 and the transition will have no effect. The transition duration property specifies how many seconds, because we are writing s before after the number, and now you will see, or millisecond, ms, a transition effect takes to complete. The transition timing function property specifies the speed curve of the transition effect. Like when you enter here, it will change the color from the green to the yellow green with much longer, and when you leave it will change back much faster, or the opposite. Also, there is a transition delay property which specifies when the transition effect will start. The transition delay value is defined with a second or millisecond. Alright, so let's move on and see what we can do here. So let's give this a transition property, and let's give this a width width. The second one will be 2 seconds. Let's or 1 second. Let's alright, so this is for other browsers, so this will work on other browsers too. The editor edit them. Alright, so let's we have already wrote the transition. Let's write width here 100. Is it already has the width? I forget. We already added the width. Okay, so on hover, let's I decided to change the height. Let's add the height of 200 pixels, and let's change these to height. Alright, so let's save. Go ahead and see what we got here. As you can see, it is changing very smoothly. And this is how it works with transition. And the last parameter for today we will learn will be the opacity property. It sets the opacity level of an element. The opacity level describes the transparency level, where 1 is not transparent at all, and 0.1 is 15 see-through, and 0 is completely transparent. When using the opacity property to add transparency to the background of an element, all of the child elements became transparent as well. This can make the text inside a fully transparent element hard to read. If you don't want to apply opacity to child elements, use RGB color values instead. See more examples here. So let's go and see. Okay, let's add this an opacity. Let's say 0.1. Now let's see what will happen. As you can see, it is hard to see. Let's make it 0.5. And here it is. We have changed the opacity. Alright guys, so that was it for today. I hope you liked the lesson, and we'll come up with a new lesson soon. Thanks for watching guys, and also don't forget to subscribe, like, and put the bell thumbs up, and also hit the bell button. Alright, thank you for watching. Bye bye.